Good morning.
Gosh, yeah, I don't know whether something is going to happen or not. As in, I'm always waiting for someone or something else to talk on Spice FM. It'd be great to get like a proper prompt. Is it? Are you saving electricity, Jeff?
I think so, Mark, because it's about to skyrocket, so we have to work in the dark as much as possible.
Let's do this. Let's do that. Good morning, everyone. You're listening to Ammar and live on Spice FM.
Each week, we're going to bring some views, news, and one or two clues from the business world.
Asian Business Connections aims to connect, support, and promote the Asian and wider communities.
And we'll be talking shop quite not just corner shops. Whether you're looking to start a business, have an existing business, or you just want to talk business, we can help.
We can help. We can help. And we do help. Gosh, Jeff, Friday, the 10th of February. Crazy, isn't it?
Time's flying. Absolutely flying. We're already, mid-February effectively, and we were just talking about the new year only, it seems, just a few days ago.
Here we are. Naturally, we need to start with Turkey's earthquake and how shocking it is. The fact that it has already killed over 21,000 people.
It's absolutely frightening, Ammar. It's absolutely frightening. The numbers, I mean, if you can imagine, Ammar, grasp those numbers, if they happened in a city that we knew, or in the UK close to us, I mean, that's just horrific. It's a horrific number, and I think that number is going to go up. Maybe it's to what, 30, 40,000 possibly?
Oh, easily. I mean, it's going to that probably double easily, and not to take into account the injuries and the wounding and such like is the thing, and tens of thousands of people are thought to have been killed and injured by the huge earthquake which struck southeastern Turkey near the Syrian border in the early hours of Monday morning. Gaziantep, which funnily enough I've met people from, when I've been in Turkey and everything else. And just before our radio show, Jeff, I was in conversation with the Turkish community leader here in Newcastle, because they are obviously keen to do fundraising and are looking to do a bucket collection in the city centre tomorrow and Saturday. So I've connected them up with the council, and I'm hoping that the Newcastle City Council is able to support them in their endeavours to enable that to happen.
And about is have they got? Do you understand the kind of process in that it goes directly where will it end up going? Because I think there's so many charities out there, and whilst it's amazing that people kind of involved in so many charitable work, but my only skepticism is when you do give money to a particular charity, you just worry whether it is going to go to the right people in the right hands, and it's not going to be lost in admin fees here, there, and everywhere, because they say that for every pound you give, you take away all the admin costs and how much of it really goes to the people that's really in need. So I think that would be nice for us to understand, which would probably affect how generous one is.
Yeah, and I appreciate that concern and that openness. I think it's important for everyone to consider that. And you're absolutely right. I mean, some of the mainstream headline charities, it's a very small proportion of funding, and I'm talking about UK-based. These aren't international charities. You know, there's been a number of examples where administrative costs and overheads and everything else lead to 60, 70, 80% of funds raised, with only 20 odd percent in extreme cases going to what the charitable causes are. As I understand it, and I don't know for certain, so please take everything I'm saying with a pinch of salt. But as I understand it, you know, the Turkish community is a mosque is in fact a charity itself, and they, in my personal experience, are the highly ethical, very moral, and I do not doubt for 1 second that you know, the money being raised will, in fact, all of it go to aid and providing critical sort of resources, you know, support in regards from simple food to clothing and everything in between. It's freezing out there, Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing that you don't associate Turkey with, because my perception of Turkey is that it's a warm country. Just because a lot of people go there.
It is a warm country. It's a very warm country. However, it depends where you are. This is in the southeast region of Turkey, a mountainous type of region that you know, backs up with Syria and such like. And actually talking briefly about Syria, sadly, because of the state of affairs in Syria, the aid isn't getting through to the people that need it. And that in particular is really sad and disheartening to see.
Yeah, of course. I think
But
because of the sanctions that are in place, they can't even aid planes that can't even land on the airport because they're not allowed, which is it's just ridiculous.
well, as in you would, in humanitarian circumstance, you would just park everything, right, and say, well, we want people to save lives, and that's what we want to happen.
Well, why should there be sanctions in the first place against anybody?
Well, okay, whatever it is, but all I'm saying is in this extreme circumstance, without getting into geopolitical backgrounds or challenges and issues and all of that, because you know a certain government in place isn't what somebody else wants or likes or whatever it is, you know, all of those things, parking them, there's children, you know, people, humanity, people die, people dead. You know, as in, I'll tell you what was an incredible story earlier on as I was coming into work, was hearing how a family of 9 had been rescued from the rubble last night at 3 a.m. in the morning. So some 5 days after, you know, a family of 9 had been rescued, which is beautiful. And obviously Kismet and fate plays a big part of this, but yeah, it's shocking. So anyway, coming back to locally, the Turkish community are coming together. We need to do what we can to support them. And don't forget, whilst absolutely we all have a right to ask where is our money going, we equally need to consider that if we're donating with a clean and clear heart and mind, that our intention is that we're supporting people on the ground, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. So that you know, was a headline news from our perspective. President Zelensky had come over here. It really concerns me. It really does concern me, the lack of intervention from Western countries you know, that is escalating into it turning into what you could describe as a proxy war, couldn't you? As in, I think people have used that term. I don't know, whether that is the case, but if all of a sudden, every single country is sort of supplying it with military might and feat and resources and funding all of that, whose war is it? Is a slight concern. And the second thing I have to admit, because I constantly reflect on what would I do in these shoes. I think there needs to be a clear and concise balance of how we prioritize our own nation, our own state, first and foremost, whilst maintaining some level of responsibility for peace and harmonious living globally. But if people are suffering here because they can't get food or there's not enough support for them, is it right to be spending billions of pounds on international efforts and not aid efforts? This is not aid in the true sense of aid. Supporting Turkey would be and is aid. That's the type of thing we should be doing more of. But sort of funding somebody else's war, to such an extent, I think, for me personally, purely personally, is questionable.
You're very conservative. I thought you were going to say that the proxy war's already been in existence from day one. It's been a proxy war since 2014, when the elected government of Ukraine was booted out by an American-led coup. That's from 2014, and that's kind of pretty obvious. I thought you were going to say is this kind of World War III? That's what worries me, because
it seems that was my point wholly, as in this is an escalation, right? This is a clear escalation, and I was being very conservative and slightly diplomatic, but my biggest concern is, in fact, this leading on to further despair, disruption, and death globally.
I think in the World War I and World War II, you're talking nearly 100 years ago, 80 years ago, I think it was very different in terms of the armory that countries had. I think any type of world war today, the worry is that if you understand the power of one bomb that can take out a nation, and it's not that we're kind of going against, as we've done 20 years ago, against Iraq or Syria or Iran or Libya, any of those countries, because you're talking about taking on Russia. And if we go back to our shows going back 10 years ago, and as they were constantly poking this big bear, we were saying that, look, just don't poke that big bear, because that big bear is going to turn around and bite one day, and it's going to be a lot bigger than us, and the bite is going to be a lot bigger than us. And it's something that we shouldn't really go and challenge, because we need to be diplomatically sitting down with all of those so-called leaders. Not one of them is calling for peace, which is just ridiculous. I mean, so if not one of them is calling for peace, it means that I don't think they have peace in their heart in this particular occasion. Now, if they think that they're going to go and take Russia's resources, as they did in Iraq and Libya and all those other places, it's not going to happen. Not against Russia, it's not. Because if you want to go and dismantle Libya and turn the country upside down and take all the resources, you can do so, and Iraq and Syria. But you think that you're going to do that against Russia when they're a nuclear power? It's not going to happen. And I think because they're failing, they all have to try and get together. But no matter how many weapons you give Ukraine, they're still not going to win that war, and it's quite obvious. So what is the purpose of it? And like you said, Ammar, we've got people that are going to be in complete despair in the next few months, because when you talk about energy costs and bills, those that have to renew their contracts, they are going to be in a world of trouble. And I know firsthand they're going to be in a world of trouble because the costs are going to go up so much. It's not going to be affordable. There's not going to, I mean, the government will turn around and say, oh, we're going to give you a bit of help to with the cost of living. Why don't you address the source of the cost going up in the first place than trying to pull wool over our eyes and say that you're going to support us when you've allowed the cost to go up by 300%? All of that stuff is just it just doesn't make any sense. So there's a lot of concerns that a lot of people have at the moment. And as you say, they should look after the country first. They should get United Kingdom of Great Britain back on track. And because we've been through so much over the last few years, started off with Brexit, then it was a pandemic, now it's the war. The next it's going to be the environment. And it's the ongoing spiral of making lives of every single resident in the UK just more and more and more difficult day by day. And they really seriously need to focus on the nation and its people and come up with a much better plan than what they have been doing over the last few years.
I agree. That's what I said.
Oh, sorry. I should have just finished all of that by saying my sentiments exactly.
All right, okay, yeah, no, that's great. But no, in all honesty, there has to be some responsibility as a global leader on maintaining and ensuring some peace. I get all of that, but anyway, let's park that because it's highly political. Interesting week, Jalf. Have you been busy?
Yeah, we have been. It's been very busy. I think that it's very busy at the moment. I think I just keep on feeling everything is reverberating. Is that the right word, Ammar? Reverberating around the football at the moment because the feel-good factor, and that's the talk of the town everywhere you go. Because of the cup final tickets being out, and so many people are so excited. Some people are so disappointed.
Oh, I think it's amazing. I think it's amazing.
The city is alive at the moment. It's a really, really nice feeling. It's really nice camaraderie amongst those that are living in Newcastle. You can feel it, you can smell it wherever you go. Those that even are not into football, they're into football at the moment. So I think that is like very, very. It's great for Newcastle overall. And I guess we're kind of in dreamland because this has happened a lot quicker than what it should have done. So, I mean, I'm speaking to certain fans who have got 300 points on their season ticket, meaning that they've been to 300 away matches because you get 1 point per away match.
Right.
So if you might 19 matches a season, 10 years, 90 matches, 20 years, constantly going to every single away match, you get 380 points.
Right.
So literally they've been going to every single away game for the last 20 years.
Right.
And imagine the feeling that they have at the moment. It's incredible. So
and has everyone got tickets or not?
Yeah, I think I've managed to get my 3. It wasn't easy, and we were guaranteed them, but it was chaos because the first day they had different. I think the club have done everything perfectly in terms of how they have categorized the tickets in terms of different groups for different fans.
Right.
Actually, the away fan I've just described, they should get first digs. So the period 1, which was on Monday, was fans who are season ticket holders, and they've got 25 plus points. So they
my supporter number just didn't do anything. I don't get it. As in, I was trying to.
But if you remember, then you have to put you could put yourself down for a ballot.
Right.
So, but if you go into your page and see if you can put yourself down for the ballot.
What's my page? I don't understand what that means.
If you go into the NUFC website on the top right-hand corner, you can log in.
Right.
Your supporter number. You log in with your supporter number, and
right.
then where you are in terms of your membership and what day you're allowed to put in for the ballot, it will come up. So if you put yourself for the ballot, it gives you an opportunity to get a ticket. But then obviously you got to appreciate that there's lots of members that are in the ballot, and I don't think there's that many tickets that are left. So what the guys did on the first day on Monday, they obviously took all the best seats, because category 1 seats, there's not too many of them, because they're right below the director's box, right in the center. Category 2 is kind of around that period, around to the left of that, and some of them behind the goal. So 1 and 2 and 3, they went in a flash. And then you've got the ones right at the top, 4, 5, and 6s that would be left for those that are kind of lower down the pecking order. And I guess that's the right way to do it. But then everyone feels like, I feel myself, oh, I wanted a category 1 seat. But on the same token, though, you're just grateful that you're able to get in the mix. But I know that there's going to be, they're saying that the supporter group somehow, they're saying there's going to be about 70 people, 70,000 people going to London. 30,000 with tickets, the other 40,000 without tickets, just to be there in the fan zones, be a part of that whole experience. So it's going to be incredible. Yeah, so it's going to be incredible. So I think, yeah, that's a real big thing at the moment. I think otherwise, I think things seem to be okay, Ammar, but I think there are. I was reading in the paper, there are a number of venues that just can't afford to stay open because of the costs going up so much. There's a River Beats, a restaurant on the swing bridge on the right-hand side as you go on the other side. Yeah. That's announced that they've shut down. I know there's a number of the operators that are in real trouble. It'll be interesting to see where we are in the next 3 to 6 months, because in hospitality, those that have got through that December harvest, I think when the reality is January, February, March. So I think it's a big battle out there, Ammar, because when your electric bill is potentially 60,000-70,000 pounds a year, as opposed to 20,000 pounds a year, you got 40 grand just to pay electric bill. That's net. So I haven't seen any statistics. I don't know if you're aware of any statistics in terms of closures and bankruptcies over the last 3 to 6 months.
Well, there's been a significant increase in them, without a doubt. So, from my perspective, it's really challenging, and I'm starting to hear perspectives from organizations, support organizations or significant organizations that have sort of said they're starting to reduce the number of or their client base is becoming a lot more cautious. I mean, look, simple things like these type of challenges with the earthquake and broader events with the war, and all of that has a further impact as well. But I mean, gosh, my own electric and gas bill seems to just be increasing every single month. It just seems incredible that we're starting to wear woolly jumpers and all of that type of thing. Well, whether we are or not, but it's like, it's mad, isn't it?
I think everyone's, I think by the end of the year, I just think that the life that we've been used to, and having kind of fair costs of living, I think that's just going to flip upside down, because even to live the lives that we have been living all those years, you have to be very, very well off to be able to do that. And I think cheap energy cost, it should be a given for humans. Yeah. It should be controlled. Water, heat, light, and power, because that's the basic necessities. Any luxuries, like go on, earn the luxuries, but the basics, it should be affordable for every single person in this country, and it should be controlled by the government so that we can have those basics taken for. We should be able to have them as a guarantee. If you want to go and buy yourself some designer clothes and ABC, that's up to your good self. But the basics, it should be, and unfortunately, those basics are not a guarantee, and that's why you have food banks and you have this and you have that, which is, how can you have food banks in Britain?
It's mad. It's mad. Anyway.
One of the most, yeah.
So great to hear that the business is sort of busy and things like that, Jalf. Sad to hear some people are impacted. I think that's a sign of the times. I also feel as if the divide between those that have and those that have not continues to grow as well, right? There's no question about that. But from my perspective, really busy week, and actually I'm looking forward to talking to Anand Bhatt. Anand is artistic director and chief executive at Dance City. He was awarded a British Empire Medal and the Queen's New Year's Honours List in 2021 for services to dance and community. Have you been fortunate enough to go to Dance City, Jalf?
Many years ago, Ammar, not really in recent times.
Right. Yeah, I think it's a fantastic venue. It's right in the heart of the city. You know, it pulls together so many different types of communities and performances. And of course, they've got the whole schedule of dance, from break dancing like you used to, through to more contemporary and modern styles as well. The salsa and everything else. Anyway, it's a great, great venue. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from Anand. I must admit, I had a really busy week, like I do every week. But it was I went along on Wednesday, Jalf. I went along to the Army's All Stop Day. And it was introduced last year as an opportunity for everybody to stop in the army, like in their roles, come together and develop themselves. And the type of things they were talking about was culture, the culture of an organization, how important that was. They had Stephen Bartlett, the dragon.
Okay.
So he done a bit of a in conversation with, and it was really, really interesting to hear him. And then the rest of the day, there was a number of activities around psychological safety, professionalism, team building. It was great. It was really good. And it's really hard for me to be able to take time out of the day, but it was very beneficial because I got time to spend with my regiment. And better understand things and how they continuously develop the leadership, because they are the foremost leadership-led organization in the world. Like army leaders are the best at what they do. They're leading people through thick and thin, and regardless of whatever's going on anywhere else, I'm incredibly proud and immensely grateful of what the Army does for us. And they're going to be hosting the Curry Club at the end of March in Kingston Park, which is good. And then later on that day, I went to Bruin Dolphin, and Shkunchada had organised a networking event primarily for Asian women, which was great. Very well attended, talked about ambition, aspiration. I shared awesome women with everybody there. And then yesterday, I facilitated a session with 10 of the top pharmaceutical companies in the UK, which was so interesting, so interesting. That was really good. So there's lots of great stuff going on.
Who are the top 3 pharmaceutical companies in the UK?
You've got like AstraZeneca, you've got Bayer, you've got Abbott and things like that. So I don't think there's any particular, well, there will be a rank, but there's I mean, the medical and pharmaceutical industry is buoyant, right? Well, if you think about, like, everyone's taking more medicine, aren't they? Like, everywhere. It's a huge market.
Well, it's in their interest from their business perspective that people have medicine. So more medicine.
That is what they do.
Hmm?
That's exactly what they do, is provide medicine, don't they? Drugs.
Question, the ethics behind wanting to develop your business, and your business plan is based on how ill people are. Then you never know. It could, in some instances, it could be a bit sinister, where people say, yeah, well, it's good that people, let's try and find a way to make them ill because we're going to make a bit more money.
That's just economics for you, Jalf, is what it is. And actually, you could say the same for hospitals, you could say the same for doctors, you could say the same. Everybody in that sector, the health and life science sector, gets paid on the basis of people being unwell or suffering accidents and everything else. That's a huge economy, right? It's whether you agree with it or not is a different kettle of fish. I mean, the alternative is we all pay for it, which we do through our taxes. So anyway, it was a great session, highly engaging, and from a business topic of the week, Jalf, there's a business topic of the week here around International Networking Week. How much networking have you done over the years, Jalf?
Probably 1% of what you've done. 1% of what
it's not a competition, is it? But actually, it's always a competition.
No,
Sorry,
I'm
I don't know why I said that.
I'm a very insular individual. I'm not a good networker, to be honest. But then the events that we have been to over the years at ABC, they've been brilliant because you've learned you meet so many key individuals. But I guess I've always found it difficult to feel I can get out during those couple of hours because of commitments. But I think it's a very, very vital part of your own personal development, really.
Well, you're giving yourself headspace, you're giving yourself permission. It's dead easy to just constantly be in your business and constantly thinking about, I need to buy this, I need to do that, I need to do these things. Yet when you go to networking events and you go to conferences and things like that, it broadens your horizons, it broadens your network, and it allows you to just sort of spend some time to reflect on your business. Gosh, it's even simple things like going to that army day was a great development day for me. I love learning. I go to everywhere with a very open mind of what can I learn. And the challenge I have, and just to be totally honest, is and upfront is it's great getting out and about, but then when you meet someone, I don't have the capacity to then develop relationships further. I just don't have the time. To do that because I'm just that busy. But anyway, it is International Networking Week, and networking is the process of building and maintaining professional relationships. It is an essential aspect of career development and can lead to new opportunities, knowledge, and resources. By connecting with people in your field, you can gain valuable insights into industry trends, best practices, and potential job openings. This can be especially useful for professionals who work in international industries, as it can open up new opportunities and help to navigate cultural differences. Networking is not only about making new contacts, but also about building relationships. It's important to take the time to get to know the people you meet, follow up with them after an event, and keep in touch regularly. Building strong relationships can lead to valuable opportunities and resources down the road. Networking can be intimidating, especially for introverts or those new to an industry. However, it's important to remember that everyone is in the same boat and most people are happy to connect with others. Be sure to come prepared with a business card, a smile, and a short introduction of yourself. Remember, networking is about building mutually beneficial relationships, so be sure to offer value to others as well. This week is International Networking Week, an annual event to promote the importance of networking and connecting with people from different countries and cultures. In addition to attending events, There are many other ways to participate in International Networking Week. Social media is a great way to connect with others and share information about the event. Here are some of our top tips for making the most of networking events. Be prepared, bring business cards and decide what you want to achieve. Listen, don't just talk about yourself. Build relationships by showing interest in others and actively listening. Follow up. Send people with a message on LinkedIn or a quick email to keep the conversation going. Be open-minded. Keep yourself open to new opportunities. You never know what is round the corner. And come to the AB Curry Club for some amazing food and friendly opportunity to network in the Northeast.
Amazing.
Yeah. So that's international networking. Just some dates for your diary in particular, Jalf. The Curry Club is the 30th of March. The awards ceremony is 19th of October, and nominations are open. Pitch Perfect Day, which is one of the programs around investor readiness, 2nd of March, and that's online. And International Innovation Program will be taking place on the 29th and 30th of March.
Excellent.
So that's the plan, and that's what's happening. So coming back to Wembley, Newcastle, you're right. There's a huge buzz going on in the city, and it was interesting to see that they'd bought back the land next to Strawberry Place to potentially extend the stadium as well, Jalf.
Yeah, it's so significant, Ammar. When you think about what Mike Ashley done, it was just vindictive of him to sell a plot of land that's been part of the expansion plans for St James's Park for all these years, and he sells it separately to spite Newcastle and its fans so that they can have a tower block there. Luckily for us, it fell through because they couldn't finance it, and the club have obviously bought it back. I think the legalities haven't quite finished, but I think they're more or less there.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, and I think once that happens, I'm assuming the road right next to St James's Park, that would be diverted in a particular way, however way they do it. And Gallagher End, where Shearer's Bar is, you could probably extend that all the way around, get another tier above, which probably would give us another, maybe it's 6,000 fans on top of that. And I think that, what do you think the possibilities are in the longer term of really Newcastle United as an institution working on with the City Council and the listed buildings people to move the buildings that are behind them on the leases end, not knocking them down, but picking them up, moving them on and creating that space somewhere else in the city, brick for brick, and expanding the stadium all the way around. Do you think that's feasible, Ammar, in the long term? Surely with what it would do to Newcastle as a city and the benefits of knocking down a few buildings which have been there. I appreciate they've been there for X amount of years, but really I don't think too many are going to. But do you know Leazes Park, Ammar? There you got those buildings in Leazes Park behind
the great two listed Victorian buildings.
Yeah, I'm sure we can just get rid of them and increase the stadium.
That's outrageous. Why would you ever suggest anything like that? That is shocking.
Yeah. No, I personally think if you put a pole in Newcastle,
yeah,
and if you put a pole in Newcastle, how many people do you think are going to actually object about it?
Everyone who lives there, people like me, who is like,
yeah, but there's only people that you're talking about,
and the fact that for me, it was outrageous what happened in 1973 when they knocked down 2/3 of Old Eldon Square. You know, you can't build those buildings like that ever again. That is like so incredible.
The position was that, look, we will replicate those buildings again. We'll keep all the bricks, all the stone, all the materials, everything, and then we're going to give you this. We're going to move it to a slightly different location.
Yeah, I don't think it works like that. Don't. In fact, I know it doesn't work like that. Anyway, no, I'd object. I'd lead that objection, regardless of 52 or 60,000 people coming to lynch me. As in that history and heritage means far more.
That you would object on such a significant development for the stadium.
Well, only because there are alternatives, and actually they wouldn't look to do that. The council wouldn't allow that to happen. They couldn't. It's protected. It would have to go up to the Secretary of State and all of that. However, you could actually move the car park and all of that and extend out that way, which would then give you another 10, 15,000.
No, I don't think. I don't think that. I don't know. I can't see how that would work because you're going to create such a high tiers. It would look imbalanced. The only way, I mean, the Gallagher end, you can definitely wrap that around. I guess.
Anyway, our super duper guest is here. Let's get Anand on the show and hear a bit more from Anand. Let's see what Anand has to say. Good morning.
Good morning, Anand.
Morning.
Good morning. Yeah, thanks for joining us and delighted to have you on our show. We were getting a bit heated somewhat, Anand, about the city. But before we continue that debate, please introduce yourself, say who you are, what you do, and more importantly, why do you do it?
Good morning. So I'm Anand Bhatt. I'm the artistic director at Dance City, which is the region's dance agency for the nation and internationally. And I've been here for a couple of years now, and I do it because I believe that movement has the power to invigorate people, and invigoration is a key element of keeping people happy, healthy, and communities going.
Wow.
Wonderful. Very powerful, and it's lovely to hear your why, Anand. So tell us a little bit more about you as well, please, if that's all right. So what got you interested in sort of dance?
Oh, I'm a failed dancer, really bad. I'm fantastic at your auntie's wedding, but you wouldn't pay to watch me dance. But as a little boy, looking at dancers like Michael Jackson and things like that got me really into dance, really passionate. And I had no intention of working in dance per se. I'd done a degree in psychology, intending to be a clinical psychologist, and had other aspirations as I was growing up. But dance was always a kind of there in the background. And even when I started work, because I became disillusioned and this, that, and the other very early in my kind of time in my degree, I got a job in charity fundraising, and I was moonlighting as a dancer, in fact. So it was not part of what I did. I was just trying to kill some time volunteering for the Mela in Leicester, which is where I grew up. So I kind of went back home and started work there as a kind of a community fundraiser, and just started doing a couple of evenings a week, and realized that I kind of got a lot of traction, and then I had to manage that somehow. So for many years, I think probably 5 to 7 years, dancing was just a second thing that I did, and then it kind of grew from there.
Amazing. So tell us a bit more about that, because that's fantastic, incredibly interesting, is what it is. So so Leicester is obviously home, or was home. Actually, I'd like to think that Newcastle is home now, and rightly so. So Leicester, because it's quite unique and really interesting to see, someone of colour being so significant in arts and culture. Or maybe it's not, but certainly in my experience, as in, I do not know anybody else in the region, and I've been very fortunate to be exposed and be involved in the arts and culture sector for a number of years. There isn't anyone as significant as you, is there?
Well, around the same time that I joined Dance City, Natalie Abu joined Northern Stage.
Right.
So Natalie Abu is probably the other leader of colour in the region. But we both started our roles probably within 4 months of each other. And both probably we were amongst the first. And I would also say that someone like Vikas Kumar, in my view, is an incredible leader of colour in the region for art and culture. Although it's specialist in South Asian, it feels very similar to what some of the work I was doing in Leicester. But Leicester was an interesting place, as you say, because it's one of the first places in Europe to have a ethnically diverse community as a majority in its city. Kind of past that in the 2011 census. And so moving to the Northeast was different because the Northeast is the whitest English region. I was reading the stats of the 2011 census, and it was only 3% ethnically diverse. But I did that in some ways very deliberately. But in answering your question, I was moonlighting for a little while. And I had to I came to these crossroads of like, what did I really want to do with my life? Because the teaching that I was doing started to take off. I kind of named my school at that time Desi Masti, for want of a better title. But it kind of got traction in the community. I think I was probably the first or the most prominent teacher of Bollywood dance in the community at that time. And did some very fun things, like I was one of the first judges on the Boogie Woogie competition that was televised on Sony Entertainment Television and had a great run. But actually, as I said, I was like one of those dancers like Mithun Chakrabarti in that respect. So in the 80s, I was probably great, but I couldn't keep up with Hrithik Roshan, in the 2000s. So I kind of realized that was, in the era that I was in, kind of in the late 80s, early 90s and all that kind of stuff, there were just very few of us doing it. But the people who are doing it from the 2000s onwards are incredibly talented. And what I think people needed, because so much of us was self-taught in that time, they just needed a little bit of structure. And I think that's what was helpful. But my biggest crossroad came when I found a guy called Akash Odedra. Now, thankfully for you, he's a little bit better at dancing than me. I'm just going to plug myself in.
Okay.
And Akash Odedra is a phenomenal dancer, absolutely phenomenal. Now, he's been commissioned by the Royal Opera House, Sadler's Wells, Lincoln Center, New York, kind of performed there, Melbourne Arts Center, New York University, Abu Dhabi. He's won awards in Canada, Serbia, Italy, Croatia, US, blah, 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 for his dancing, as well as the UK. And him and I, we kind of met each other in Leicester, and we did a show together, and he mopped the floor with me, absolutely mopped the floor with me. And I came off stage saying, I will not dance. However, if I can help you, I will. And what became apparent is that we would barter with each other a little bit. He would teach some evening classes at my studio in Leicester, and he would access the space for his own work, and I would try and kind of further that. And around 2008 and 2009, what had happened is that he got a development grant for Arts Council, which I ended up somehow managing inadvertently. And around the same time, a very famous choreographer called Akram Khan, who has choreographed the Olympics, choreographed for Kylie and all that kind of stuff, and just an incredible choreographer, had invited Akash to perform a solo at his festival at Sadler's Wells. And suddenly I was producing a piece of work, and I didn't know what I was doing, but nonetheless, I was kind of tasked with it. Thankfully for us, it worked out. And that catapulted a journey for Akash and I, where he ended up performing in some 40 countries, in some of the most prestigious arts festivals in the world. And that changed my direction of travel, because all of a sudden I was exposed to an entire world of dance that I hadn't experienced, where we were doing relatively South Asian work, but being bought and watched by people of all cultures. Because all of the work that I'd been doing so far in my kind of Bollywood dance world was only kind of being available to the people locally. And I was doing classes in Birmingham or Coventry. But all of a sudden, South Asian dance was relevant across cultures. And we found that we were on the roads. I was spending about a week of every month outside of the country, a week of every month in London. And suddenly, teaching was difficult because I had, to be regular and committed and available to my students. And that wasn't possible if I was on the road so much. So we decided that my dance school, Desi Masti, would shut down in 2014. And we partnered with Shamak Davar. Now, Shamak Davar is the world's largest Bollywood dance company. They have, Shamak himself is a choreographer. He choreographed the films Bunty or Bubbly, Doom 2, Tare Zameen Par, and such things. And he choreographs regularly for the IFA Awards, Miss Feminine Awards, all of those kinds of big, glitzy kind of events. And seamlessly somehow, people who were teaching in Mumbai and Dubai ended up teaching in Leicester. And by the end of that journey, just before I came to Dance City and ahead of lockdown, we'd kind of got the master national franchise where we were kind of doing classes from Manchester to Dartford, and lots of places in between. And about 1,000 people a week were coming to our classes. We didn't quite get to the Northeast because the population was a bit sparse. And so we would kind of run in these parallel worlds where Akash's work was kind of opening in Australia and kind of taking next week to China and all that kind of stuff. And then we were doing this incredibly rooted local work in communities like Rugby and Wellingborough and places like that seemingly didn't have big populations, but were still managing to service those communities with kind of regular dance classes and with quality teachers who themselves had direct experience of working in the industry in Bollywood with kind of Shah Rukh Khan or kind of Deepika Padukone and all of those kinds of stars. It was fantastic as a journey. But I came to another crossroad in my life where I thought, I'm getting a bit older. I needed to also kind of decontextualize myself. All of my working life, I'd been in Leicester, and I needed to kind of find a place where I could solve new problems, face new challenges, and kind of start a family life, because being away and on the road couldn't do that. And me and my wife made the bold move to the Northeast, an area that I toured to but hadn't spent a lot of time in. And as you can see with my bald head, I hadn't experienced how cold it could be up here. So I wear a woolly hat most of the time now, but it's been a fantastic move to Dance City and the Northeast.
What a fascinating, amazing story. I was going to say Jaf's far more desi and musty than me, but and as a thing, and I think.
No, I think from what you said, and it's just, I think it's great for someone of your experience that we have you in Newcastle, and hopefully it's going to really add to the culture and how art is seen in the city. So I think it's so interesting to hear everything that you're saying.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. What a lively and colourful story as well. And then ever so delighted. I mean, we're going to run out of time in a few minutes, but I'd like to get you back on now. Actually, I wouldn't mind us hosting a curry club at the Dance City, so you can share a bit more depth and detail around this, and we invite the lower levels of the ethnic community that we indeed have in the Northeast, but they're very vibrant. And you were right to correct me about Vikas, because he is a great person, and he's a good friend of ABC, and has certainly led on the cultural appreciation and promotion. But I think we could and should do far more of that engagement through wonderful people like your good self.
Well, you're always very welcome to Dance City. So I run a Bollywood dance class on a Friday night here at Dance City, and so I'd welcome a curry club after class one Friday night in our cafe. And Jaf and Ammar, both of you are incredibly welcome. We'd love to share that experience with you.
Well, I mean, Jaf was a proper dancer. So a bit like your story, and I had my bit of lino, my ghetto blaster, met Jaf, and he was wearing a tracksuit and had all of the moves and burnt me off as what he done. And ever since, I'm not bitter. at all. But I continue to practice my moves and look forward to sort of coming along to one of your Saturday or Sunday classes and giving Jalf another sort of go on his lino is what I'd like to.
Yeah, it's just, what tends to happen now is that I realise that I need more acupuncture between classes than I used to. This is a slight challenge, but nonetheless, we've got to keep going.
Great stuff. So where do people find out, Adam, a bit more about Dance City, what's going on?
Yeah, so social media, Twitter handle is Dance City, and our website, dancecity.co.uk, is the place to look for regular classes, but also for performances. We'll be supporting all sorts of performances coming up this season, including Masala Festival when it comes round with Gem Arts this year. So have a look at our site. Things are always being updated all of the time. So if you don't see something one month, have a look the next month to see what's happening. So yeah, we'd love to stay in touch and hear more from your listeners about what is possible.
Great stuff. Thank you ever so much for coming on. Beautiful story. Delighted to have someone as significant as you in our region. And we'll do everything we can to sort of connect, support and promote you and Dance City. So thank you.
Very happy and humbled to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.